Well, yesterday was tax day, and I figured let's do something about accounting. But I'm not actually going to talk about accounting. I'm just going to talk about the tools that you use for accounting. You need a ledger book, and you need a pen. The rest of it is just numbers. But anyway, blah, blah, blah. This pen is an accountant nib. These were made for accountants, hence the name, accountant nib. They were very fine, almost entirely firm, a little tiny bit of flexibility for some reason. I don't quite understand why, but they did that. And but they were mainly very, very fine, so you can fit all of your profit and loss in these little tiny columns. And, you know, if I worked for Standard Oil in 1910, I could write my $5 trillion profit in that little space right there of about an inch. There'd be even room for the decimal and the cents that John D. Rockefeller was making. So accountant nibs are very fine, and again, just slightly flexible. So it's actually, they're sort of fun to play with if you're not accounting. Imagine if you're an accountant, you'd enjoy them, but they're fun to draw with, and they're fun to do calligraphy with, even though this is not a pen that you would normally ever think of using for calligraphy. So this is step one. Beautiful paper, an accountant nib. Well, last night I fell asleep to the beautiful rendering, lettering, and I fell asleep in a good way, of a man that goes by the name of Teosone. Teosone. Theosone. His real name is Adam, and he's a calligrapher in Berlin. Theosone. And he uses almost exclusively these big, broad nibs for black letter calligraphy. And his work is absolutely beautiful. It is full of life, and I recommend it for everyone. And he's able to not just make these vertical lines, but he lets the ink in the pen run dry like this. He looks like he knows the rules, but he likes to break them. And he comes up with these very lively, beautiful designs that people turn into tattoos and wear on their body, which I think is just a beautiful thing. I'm not a tattoo fan myself, but if I had a tattoo, I would have him design it. Even though I design tattoos, I would wear one of his over one of mine. But anyway, so he knows how to, play with the pen and lift it up like this to get these thin lines, and he just does it beautifully. So I thought, well, I'll add ink to my Pilot pen like this and see what I could do. And I was inspired by his work, and I'm going to break the rules too. But unlike him, I won't know how to do it the right way first. I'll just go right to the breaking the rules and have fun with it. But anyway, so I was looking at this, and in a drawer I have a number of fountain pens that have broad nibs on them, or nibs that I would have called stub or italic nibs, which is pens that I would use to create the black letter forms like this one, or use for italic writing, or any sort of writing that would use a broad nib. Old English black letter, Germanic, italic. I don't know the names of these things. I'm not a historian, unfortunately, so don't listen to what I'm saying. But I found this one. This is a Waterman pen, and it looks like it's the love child of my accountant nib and this broad pen. Somehow they got together and had a baby, and it's this pen right here. And it's really interesting because it's very fine, but it has this little broad edge to it. And it's like, this is what the Catholic Church in Germany used to write down how much money they were making on indulgences before Martin Luther stuck his nose in their business. So they would, they could write down the 2 Millionen Deutschmarks, whatever they were using back then, Krone, ducats, pieces of gold, pieces of Geld. But it's really interesting because it's so fine and just vaguely, just slightly flexible. It's exactly like a accountant nib, except it has a very tiny stub point on it. So it's really, really cool. And I probably, yesterday, before I saw Teo Zona's videos, I probably would have just thought this was useless. But now I'm going to reacquaint myself with this really cool pen. And that's one of the things that I really like about pens, is they're all individual creatures. And when you leave them be for a while and then come back and revisit them, it's like there's something that's like seeing an old friend from high school, but there's also like seeing an old friend from high school that you haven't paid any attention to for the last 50 years, and you say, oh my God, what are you up to? And it's just really interesting to rediscover the joy of a certain pen. And so I'm, rather than thinking of blackletter as just these rigid rules you have to follow, I'm going to try to look at the work of Teo Zona, or Adam is his real name, and try to delight in, well, I am already delighted by his work, but I'm going to try to channel some of his joie de vivre. What is joie de vivre in German? Blah blah something kite. Maybe there's no such word in German for joie de vivre. Maybe Germans don't have a love of life. They have a love of death. No, that's not very nice to say about Germans. But who knows? I'm going to try to channel the Germanic lettering, the black hand that Teo showed. I do have in my collection of stuff, I have a beautiful copybook from 1813, I think, or something very early, and it shows this student of lettering create these beautiful lines in blackhand lettering, except they were using a flexible nibbed pen, pointed pen, and it was very interesting seeing how they imitated it, because the lines got thick and thin, but they got thick and thin because of the pressure applied, not because of the shape of the nib. So they were trying to imitate this pen, this kind of pen, with a pen that would not normally do that. So let's pretend this is a B. Well, it's kind of a B. Okay, so that's a B. Now how do you do that with a pointed pen? Well, you try to imitate it as best you can, but there are areas like this that are supposed to be filled in broad, but can't be because you're going uphill and you can't press down going in that direction. So it was a very interesting look, and it's interesting too when you see, and you do see Teo with a pen like this doing script, and he does it much better than I'm doing it because he takes advantage of lifting up the pen like that and getting these thin lines. But they happen abruptly, pretty abruptly. You know, you can learn to do it slower, I guess, but it has these little tails that come off in a fun way. But you can, you know, by turning the pen, you're able to, you know, get more variety at a different rate. You can slow the thinness by turning the pen differently, I guess, in your hand. But that's something that will take years of practice, and I don't have that many years left to me, I don't think. But it's really fun when you get inspired by not only a new pen that you haven't ever used or forgot about, or about seeing the artwork done by another calligrapher or another artist. And it just makes me want to run out. Last night as I was watching, I was actually watching him and other calligraphers to try to help fall asleep because of the sound of the pen on the paper. It's very relaxing, and it was really just a joy to listen to the noise of the pen, the sound of the pen. But when I started looking at the work that he was doing, I was thinking, oh my God, I have to wake up and practice. But look at that. See, now I would not have thought to do that kind of stuff. I mean, I knew that you did that, but I didn't watch anyone do that for as much as was watching him. So I thought, well, I'm going to try to do that. And also, you know, looking at his work, when you know the pen skips a beat like it's doing there, normally a calligrapher would, you know, go over the line and fill it in and, you know, follow all of the rules and doing all that kind of stuff. But that's not joie de vivre. This is joie de vivre. This is nicht joie de vivre. So, anyway, back to this pen, this newly discovered. Oh no, that's not the pen. They all look alike. Back to this pen. This is the accountant nib love child thing, and it's really going to be a treat. You know, yesterday I would have thought this pen was just sort of useless and kind of scratchy, but now I'm gonna say, okay, channel my German accountant that worked for the Catholic Church, counting up all the money they were making on selling indulgences before the Reformation kicked in and Martin Luther had them tortured and burned at the stake or whatever Martin Luther did. But it's really quite an interesting pen. So watch the videos of Teo Zona. That's not at all correct. I understand Zona has two N's, but I don't know how he's supposed to pronounce that. But look Teo up and watch his videos and his tutorials, and they're really quite fun. So, guten Sie bye bye. Auf Wiedersehen, mein lieber Schwan. Toodaloo.